What's up guys, Bo here again, and in this entry I want to talk about a long-awaited one for me, but I want to talk about the suppression of sexuality and the suppression of sex in our society, right? And this is a very deep issue in our society, right? And it gets to the point where like pretty much all of our social problems and our interpersonal problems pretty much spring from this, like, you know, it is the fundamental reason for a lot of dysfunction in our society. It's the suppression of sexuality that we have, right? And I want to start off with a concrete example that's happened recently, right? I mentioned RSD, which stands for Real Social Dynamics, in one or two of my previous entries, right? And essentially who they are is that they are this dating kind of coaching group where they coach men to go out and meet women and to embrace their masculinity and, you know, to attract, you know, to seduce women essentially, and, you know, to get into relationships and to be more confident with the opposite sex, right? And there was one coach within that who was part of a controversy that occurred recently. And his name is Julian, and basically what he did was he goes all around the world to run like free events and seminars and things. And I actually went to one of his that occurred in London like a month or 3 months ago. And yeah, essentially basically what happened was he went to Japan, and his approach is interesting, right? Like basically he filmed all of this and he put it on YouTube. Like he goes up to random girls in Japan, right, in Tokyo or whatever, and he knows no Japanese, and like people in Japan can't really speak English properly, so it's just like goes up to him and he's like Pikachu, Pokemon, and he just says random stuff like anime and stuff like that, and then he grabs the girl's head and basically just like shoves it like down into his crotch basically. And he did this like on a couple girls like, in the video, and basically from that video, basically, like I watched that video when it came out and I was like, okay, you know, like apparently that's a thing. And but basically what happened was like that blew up. Like literally there's the first thing that happened was like there's kind of like a group of YouTubers who basically run vlogs about like living in Japan as foreigners and things like that, and they started to attack him like quite viciously. And then basically it got, you know, more and more kind of into the news, and basically he actually appeared on CNN, I think it was, news. And yeah, they were basically grilling him and like, you know, do you think it's okay to you know, physically assault, like, you know, to sexually assault women, like just because like you're like, yeah, like a foreigner in a different country? Like, do you think that like presents a good image for like us in the Western world, like over there in the East? And basically, yeah, and it just kind of blew up basically, and, you know, and it's all kinds of crazy. But essentially, with that thing, right? It's like, yes, there are basically two ways of looking at it, right? And you know, the whole thing that's being propagated by the media, that's the kind of the social narrative of what happened, right? And that is that he's some kind of sex fiend and he's like out there to physically sexually assault women and stuff like that. But then there is another perspective, right? And what's interesting is like initially, you know, because I watched a lot of Julian's videos. You know, he has his own channel, and like his approach is very it's very aggressive, right? And he's like a tinkerer. Like basically, what he likes to say about himself is he likes to do like social experiments. And actually, there are loads of YouTubers on YouTube who do like, you know, pranks, you know, public pranks, and like people who just do crazy shit in public, like pretending to be stabbed in public and seeing like the public reaction, things like that. And he's kind of similar. Like he likes to do social experiments basically and see how far he can push like the expectations of society and get away with it. And you know, it got to a point where like a couple months ago, like 4 or 5 months ago, like I was starting to think like this guy's kind of like a bit psychopathic. Like some of the things he does with the girls he does, like Like sometimes he's just really brutal, like in his aggression towards like, you know, like interacting with women and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah. So I started to like, maybe there's something wrong with this guy. But right after a while of watching his videos and just my own development, like my own kind of conscious development, I started to see the value in what he does, right? And this is the other perspective, right? The other perspective is that he is essentially pushing the envelope of what is possible for someone, both from a point of view of kind of social liberation, in the sense that, you know, yes, the social rules that exist in society are helpful. You know, they kind of facilitate the smooth running of society, but also they, you know, past a certain point, they're kind of a bit suffocating. So he kind of takes that and basically tries to basically to morph it basically, and to test the boundaries of to test the boundaries essentially of societal. You know, the unspoken rules of society. And also and the other perspective is from a personal development perspective, right? Because, like, you know, doing the stuff that he does takes balls, and it takes a lot of self-confidence, right? And a lot of people in society nowadays are lacking self-confidence, you know. Well, you know, and with RSD in general, you know, a lot of men, for example, like, they don't know how to talk to women. A lot of men don't know how to be men, you know, funnily enough. So, you know, there's that perspective, right? And it goes to show that, well, first of all, you cannot judge a book by its cover, right? But also, there's an interesting thing with, you know, the whole reaction with it, because the reaction was really, like I said, it was blown up. It was fucking crazy, right? Like, people were really angry and kind of very upset about it. And it's like, but essentially, you know, no one was hurt in particular, you know, like, it wasn't like, you know, let's just say there are worse things that the news could be focusing on, right? So, like, why are people so angry, right? And it made me think about, you know, the whole kind of feminist movement. And essentially, feminism, on the surface, is kind of crusading for, you know, women's rights in society and things like that. And it stemmed from it began in a time when basically our society was very much more kind of patriarchal and very much more, you know, male dominant. And basically, you know, women were subjugated for a very, very long time by, you know, the patriarchy, essentially. And, you know, a lot of women didn't have a voice. And, yeah, so kind of throughout history, you know, women started to stand up for their rights, you know, and you know, amass in their numbers to kind of equalize the power dynamic between men and females in society. But essentially, okay, so that's the kind of surface aspect of feminism. But then the kind of shadow, you could say, the shadow side of feminism is essentially a suppression of sexuality, right? A suppression of sexuality, right? It is a subconscious aversion towards open sexuality in society. So this aspect of feminism is a very, very damaging one, right? And basically, what the effect that this has on people is that it basically suppresses. It makes people fearful of their sexuality, because, you know, the whole shtick with feminism is, aside from, you know, the good side of it, which is like to give women their, you know, opportunities in society. The kind of agenda of feminism is to basically demonize sexuality, in the sense that, in the sense that, you know, women who are overtly sexual, you know, who wield their sexual power, you know, their physical attractiveness, in a way that, you know, gets them, you know, forward in life, like gets them, you know, to move upwards in life. That's viewed as wrong, basically, right? And then on the flip side, you know, you have the original kind of you know, so that's the kind of the less talked about aspect of feminism. But then the other aspect of, obviously, which is like what spawned feminism in the first place, is the kind of the emasculation of masculinity. Because again, you know, the whole point of the original point of feminism was to give women their power back, right? Or to give women more power in society. So it works to basically strip away the power of masculinity. So you have these two kind of leeching effects, basically, that feminism poses on society. You have the shaming of female sexuality, you know, calling females who are overtly sexual sluts, and on the other side, you're stripping males of their power, you know, and saying men are useless and that, like, you know, women don't need men and stuff like that. And that is, you know, the poison of feminism, like, within society, right? And essentially, what needs to happen is that we need to basically come back into our sexuality, right? And I'll just mention a quick point here that So essentially, feminism, like I said, this is a very, 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 very deep issue, like the suppression of sexuality. It's strange because no one really talks about it. It's like kind of like the elephant in the room. But there are similarities between feminism, you know, something like feminism, and religion, right? Because both essentially propagate the idea that sexuality is inherently wrong. Like there is something demonic about sex. And you know, and really, you know, any kind of ideology has aspects of, you know, this kind of dogma towards, like, let's say our more base kind of fundamental aspects of human nature, you know, human physiology, biology, and stuff like that. Yeah. So essentially, what needs to happen is that we need to come back into power, right? Because sexuality is about power, right? In the same way that money is about power, sexuality is also about power, right? So essentially, what is happening is that people who propagate the ideologies of feminism, and, you know, other, you know, religions and things like that, essentially they're coming from a frame of powerlessness, right? They feel that power is inherently wrong, and therefore, by extension, money, you know, material riches and sexuality are also wrong, because they are direct manifestations of power, right? Your sexuality is the basis of your power, right? And it goes deeper than money, because money is like something that we invented, right? But sexuality is inherently, like, it is literally linked with our power, you know, our drive in life, you know. It's what drives us to you know, it's what drives life, right? You know, if there was no kind of sexual drive, there would be no life, right? So what needs to happen is that we need to individually come back into our own in terms of our sexual power. And what this means is men need to get back into their masculinity, right? And not fear their masculinity. And women need to get back into their femininity and not have to fear, you know, judgment from other people, right? And, you know, I say it like it's easy, but it's going to be very difficult because, like I say, this is a very, 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 very controversial thing. It's a very kind of very sensitive issue because, like I say, you know, this deals with, you know, our kind of, it deals with power and, right, and, like, you know, essentially the world is driven by power struggle, you know, right now, like how society is now. So what this means is, well, I'll now give you some kind of context to this in terms of, you know, what both sexes need to do. I'll start with females, with women, right? You guys need to basically step back into true femininity, right? And to step away from, like, you know, the poisonous mindset of feminism, right? Okay, feminism is good, right? The thing that is good about feminism is that, like, it it pushes for equality, you know, gender equality in society, and that's fine. You know, that is absolutely fine. Women should have equal opportunities to men. You know, when it comes to the opportunities to succeed in life, they should be equal, right? The rest, you know, the rest is to do with, you know, you as a person. But then, you know, the starting opportunities should be the same. But like I mentioned already, you know, there are poisonous aspects of feminism. So you need to step away from feminism, because you need to realize that feminism is hurting you girls, you know, you women as well, right? It's stripping you of your feminine power, right? You know, if you want to be sexy, if you want to be desired, if you want to be, you know, if you want to be free in your, you know, just like, and loving life and, you know, having a great time, because girls just want to have fun, right? And it's true, right? Girls just want to have fun. But the females in society right now, at present, like they're anxious, you know? They feel like they're constantly in competition with each other. They feel like they're in constant competition with men, you know? They feel like they have to, they have a resentment towards their kind of roles in society, because they feel that, well, they're torn, because, you know, they want to have power in society, you know, they want to have opportunity, they want to succeed in their careers, but at the same time, they're resentful because they feel that, you know, they shouldn't, you know, they feel deep down that they really shouldn't be having to work that hard for it, right? It's the men that should be doing that, right? Men should be the ones who are, like, you know, leading the way, right? So, you know, there is this divide in like the feelings of women nowadays. Like, you know, they feel like their hands are tied on that one. They feel torn, right? And as females, right, you guys need to basically learn about your own sexuality, right? Because people like to give all this bullshit that femininity is like complicated. Femininity is not complicated. Femininity is really, the feminine energy is about, it's about sensitivity, right? And you know, if you go deeper, my views are that, you know, sexual energy is kind of, it's balanced internally anyway. So, you know, a balanced individual has both the masculine and feminine energies within him or her. But essentially, you need to start to learn what true femininity is, right? And that's very difficult because there are loads of kind of feminist-minded, you know, role models out there in society. But essentially, what makes a woman very feminine is her heart, basically, right? It's her heart and her enjoyment towards life, right? And what attracts a man to a woman, right, is her kind of carefree attitude towards life, her willingness to have fun, and her willingness to basically support the people around her, you know, to be like a beacon of positivity for people around her. And, you know, to be a woman who's free, you know, who is confident in her value in herself, you know, kind of thing. A woman who knows how to be sexy, right? Because loads of women, like a lot of women in society, don't know how to be sexy, right? And sexiness comes from confidence and, you know, carefreeness and, you know, and love, you know, love for herself and love for the people around her, right? You know, and, you know, it involves kind of, you might say that this is a surface thing, but as a man, I would say that, you know, I like a woman who does her best to look good, you know, to accentuate her physical attractiveness, you know, because, okay, aside from, oh, well, you know, you're shallow and, like, you only look for looks and things like that, and, you know, oh, it's only looks, you know, like, what about personality and stuff like that? Well, yeah, personality is important, but, like, you know, if you make an effort to look your best, right, I assure you that you're going to feel miles better, right? You're going to feel better about yourself. People are going to give you more positive attention, and you're going to feel like a million times better, right? And it's not, you know, what needs to happen is you need to identify that there's a shadow, there's a fear with, you know, not being attractive enough, right? But really, that doesn't really matter. You know, what you need to kind of realize is that, you know, like, you don't have to worry so much about it. Like, as long as you are doing your best and you kind of project your best self into the world, like whether that be in your personality or through your outward appearance, you know, taking care of yourself, then that, you know, that is an attractive woman, right? And I know I'm spending quite a long time on the feminine aspect. But one other thing is that, you know, the willingness to basically relinquish control to men, right? And let me explain what I mean by this. It means if you're in a relationship with a man, right, you basically, you're there to support him, right? If you want a man who's, you know, very kind of successful and, you know, masculine, you know, then you need to be the feminine in that relationship. And that means basically to make sure that his needs are met, you know, to be supportive and not get into this power struggle between, I mean, obviously, like, you know, everyone's different, but, you know, I'm just saying in terms of the, you know, the feminine role, it's basically letting yourself be taken care of, because you take care of him in this way, like you basically, you please him, whether, you know, emotionally or physically, and he takes care of you, like in terms of money, security, and all of that stuff, right? So it's not unfair. It's like, this is just how, you know, masculine and feminine match up, right? You help each other, and if you do that, if you let the polarity of your sexual, if you embrace your femininity and he embraces his masculinity, then you both become like a lot stronger. You both become more confident. You help each other to become the best versions of yourselves, right? So cool. And now I'll move on to the men. For men, right, for men, we have to kind of come into our power, right? We need to kind of like build our inner strength, right? And I refer you to my videos about, there were 2 videos. There's one entitled How to Be Sensitive and Male, right? And that talks about firm sensitivity. And a recent one where I talked about, you know, how to be sensitive but not weak, right? And essentially that's what it entails, right? As a man, we need to basically develop our kind of strength of character, right? And that means becoming comfortable in yourself and not being afraid to assert your personality, your masculinity in the world, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean being like an aggressive asshole, because a lot of men are aggressive assholes. And, you know, ironically, those men aren't real men, right? They're just doing that, you know, because, well, I mean, it depends, you know, I'm a bit wary about what I just said, but, yeah, so essentially what it means is, true masculinity is about comfort and confidence and assertion of your individuality, of your authenticity, right? And being 100% proud of that and confident in that, right? So, you know, so basically, you need to let your personality shine through, right? And not be so kind of supplicating to other people, right? Because the masculine energy is quite, it is aggressive in the sense that, like, it is kind of like, I'm going to do this regardless of what you think of me. I'm going to say this regardless of what you think of me. And I think with men, we need to kind of just let go in terms of, like, just be who we are and be proud of that and not give a shit about what anyone else thinks. And it's not from a frame of mind of, like, you know, like, I have power over you, like, you cannot control me, or like, I'm going to, like, dominate you. It's not like that, because that's kind of like, yeah, it's like insecure masculinity. It's about basically like, hey, I respect myself enough to basically offer my truth to the world, you know. I'm mature enough to know that what I have to express is true. It's coming from a place of truth from within me. And I'm showing this to you as opposed to supplicating and, you know, being socially acceptable, because I know that offers more value in the world, right? Because like, you know, you have a lot of value to offer, right? You need to realize that, and you need to realize that there are going to be people who oppose you, but those are people that are coming from a fearful paradigm. Like they think they've been told, and they believe that, you know, being inauthentic to from the point of view of, you know, being socially acceptable is like the best way to do it, to you know, what, you know, to get what they want in life. But really, it's to get what you want in life, you need to provide value, right? And as men, we need to tap into what our value is, and that involves basically learning ourselves. You know, so like I said in the video about sensitivity and becoming strong, we need to identify what our value we have within ourselves, first off, to develop that. And then we need to take that, embody it in our everyday lives, and then to take it out into the world. So basically, we need to learn what it means to be masculine and feminine. And we need to bring that out from within ourselves and project it into the world, right? And that's how we're going to be successful in life. That's how we're going to find happiness, right? Particularly when it comes to kind of, you know, relationships. You know, knowing what value you have as a male or a female to offer into the relationship, right? And to be wary of, you know, the social narrative, because, again, you know, this is an issue that's probably not going to change overnight. Like, this is a problem within society, it's not going to change overnight. And there are people, you know, there are loads of people who will tell you otherwise, who will try and put you down. And, you know, you need to just decide for yourself, you know, what is more important for you, you know, to go towards what you believe is the truth and what will be helpful for everyone. Because really, like I mentioned, there's something called the crabs in the bucket mentality. And that is what is essentially at play when it comes to this, right? Basically, like, it's a kind of fearful group kind of mentality where everyone thinks that, like, basically, you know, there's direct competition, and, you know, everyone feels that there are scarce resources, and, like, if one person gets something, then it means, like, you know, they're not going to get something. So basically, like I explained, like, the crabs in the bucket that have been caught, but they pinch onto each other to make sure, like, no one else escapes. And it's like a, you know, a very self-defeatist mindset, right? And instead of that, we need to start to foster and to nurture a mindset amongst ourselves whereby, you know, it's the opposite. You know, we want each other to succeed. You know, we want each other to get what we want, because we know that there's more than enough to go around, right? And the more powerful we each become, it's not that we're going to be, like, stabbing ourselves in the back, but rather the more strong that we become, the more we will be able to help each other and in living, like, really fulfilling lives, right? And, you know, doesn't that sound fucking awesome? Right, so cool. I may do another video on this, because it's like, I don't know if I've done it justice, but, like, it's a very kind of contentious issue. You know, it's not going to go away anytime soon. But you know, let's keep kind of. I'm going to keep spreading this message, and you know, hopefully one day people will start to think for themselves and not, like, feel so powerless. You know. Because, you know, if you're out there and you're watching this, and it's making you feel really, really kind of attacked. You know, if like, you know, if the comments I've made about feminism and religion and things like that are really making you angry, then, you know, that's not my intention. Like, I don't want to make you angry. I didn't mean to offend you. It's just, you need to realize, you know, the kind of the dark reasons for why you feel the way you feel. And I just want you to let you know that, like, you know, you're a beautiful person, and you need to search within yourself. And if you feel in any way, shape or form that your beliefs, you know, your conservative attitudes towards this kind of thing are actually kind of stifling you and making you feel, like, trapped yourself. If you feel that, like, the reason why you're kind of advocating, you know, these conservative views is to kind of, it is like, and this is gonna take honesty, right? This is gonna take honesty with yourself. Like, if you feel that the reason you're advocating these conservative views is because you feel that you'll never get any, so you don't want anyone else to get any, then know that, well, first of all, like I say in all my videos, like, it's not your fault. Like, don't bash yourself for it. Like, never bash yourself for anything, because that's not helpful. Like, it's coming from a genuine place. Like, we all feel powerless. We all feel jealous sometimes. We all feel like, you know, other people have it better than us, but you know, like, you know, there's also love. You know, there's also love in the world. Like, you just need to kind of flip your perceptions, right? You just need to kind of maybe think, well, maybe things aren't so bad. You know, maybe I'm not so ugly. You know, maybe I'm not so unattractive. Maybe I'm not so unlovable. Maybe I can come up with a list of things that make me attractive. Maybe maybe I can come up with a list of things that I can improve about myself that will enable me to feel more confident in myself and also be attracted to other people, right? So it's all about shifting your mentality. It's all about practicing your focus to focus more on the positives from the negatives, right? And, you know, I'm not going to lie, that takes a lot of honesty, it takes a lot of courage, and, you know, and it takes a lot of commitment. So, you know, I'd love to say that it's possible for everyone, but, you know, it's really, it depends on you, you know. It is possible, but it just falls on you to make the decision and to follow through on it and to be completely honest with yourself, you know. It takes courage. I know, like, yeah, it takes a lot of courage to shift from, you know, from a victim mentality to a more of a thriving, abundance kind of mentality. Because, yeah, you know, the world's a scary place, right? You know, the world's a very scary place. The world's a very hurtful place. And sometimes, you know, hey, my heart goes out to you, but cool. Anyway, I hope this video has been helpful. Like I say, I'm probably gonna do another one of these, like, about sexuality and get into more kind of raunchy stuff. But cool. I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you in the next entry. Peace.